Good morning. I want to thank you. It's so wonderful to be here. I'm honored to be guest speaking today. My heart's already so full. Jack, Julian, and I were just welcomed with so much love this morning, and so thankful for all of the embrace that we received. Stephanie, the words that you've been reading have just been stunning. They are beautiful. And so I'm just standing up here with a heart already overflowing in love and gratitude. So thank you again for having me here this morning. This morning I'm talking about a love story, and that in fact we are all living a love story, and what we want to do is see it, recognize it, and cultivate and nurture the awareness that our entire life is one beautiful, magnificent, glorious love story. I invite you now to think of just one person, or it could be a pet, an animal, that you love so completely and unconditionally that you would do anything for this person or this animal. Just pick that one person and feel that love in your heart. Cultivate the love for that one person in your heart. And what we know is sometimes when we have that one person in our heart, you'll have somebody. Got somebody. So with that one person or that one pet, what we know is that in the everyday life we feel and we know that we love them, but it's not like we're overflowing with love all of the time. We're going through our everyday life and we love them. But if something happens to them, if they get lost, if it's an animal or they make their transition, in that point of transition, I mean leaving their body to the other side of the veil, that love becomes intensified. We remember and feel that love. It's always there. And that's what this divine transcendent love, it's always there. It doesn't come and doesn't go. We're just more aware of it at certain times. And often when we don't feel it, or when we feel like it's going away or we don't have it anymore, we can feel the intensity of that love. And when we feel the intensity of that love, what's interesting, at least this happens to me, is when I'm feeling the intensity of that love, everything else drops away. All the other things that I was so concerned about, the dust and the grit of the journey, as Howard Thurman would say, falls away, and we see what's really important. My teacher and mentor, Reverend Michael, would say, court the beloved, the divine, this infinite oceanic love, so it becomes more real to us than the chairs on which we were sitting. And I remember always thinking about that because I always thought the chair in which I was sitting was very solid. Wow, what would that be like? But it's actually more real than the chair in which I was sitting. But what I notice is when I feel that intensity of love in that moment, whatever circumstance or condition brings that love to my awareness with such profundity, I'm not even aware of the chair, I'm not aware of the room, I'm not aware of anything else. That love is all-consuming. So the question is how to live and cultivate and nurture that love. And what is it even? I was raised in the United Church of Christ. For those of you who don't know, it's a liberal Protestant church. My mother had us go, I had 3 older brothers, and had us go to church up until middle school. We went every Sunday, and her desire was that we got introduced to Christian values. She wasn't concerned what happened after that. She just wanted us to be introduced to it, and then we can make up our own mind. In my house, there was freedom of question, and in the church, totally free to question everything. It was only later, but it wasn't a surprise, that I discovered my mother was firmly agnostic, my dad was an atheist, which would explain how I learned Christianity, which was very different, I think, from people who were raised in more of an ethnocentric fundamentalist way, which was everything was open to question. I was taught not even perhaps, those miracles probably never happened. The whole resurrection thing, I don't think about that. But he was a really loving guy. So that's how I was raised. Jesus was just he might have lived, and if he lived, he was a really loving guy and a great example for us to become a place of love. So and I never heard about heaven about hell. Well, heaven didn't really exist either. Nothing transcendent existed. It was just the 5 senses in our beautiful rational minds. And which was a great way to be raised. I'm so grateful for it. I don't have a lot of baggage. I was free to think and believe and explore without question. I didn't even know people believed in hell until I was in college. That was a complete revelation to me because I was told that that's something people believed in the Dark Ages. So I didn't know that people still believed that. So I had total freedom to explore. Now, church did not really take with my 3 brothers so much. I think the values did. I think my mom achieved her goal with the values, but not so much the whole church thing. I loved church. I loved listening and hearing about the stories of Jesus, and what I loved about it was the love that I kept hearing about, and I resonated with it. What I resonated with is having 3 older brothers. They were all very extroverted, very confident, very ambitious, very loud. I was the exact opposite. I was not just a girl, I was very introverted, shy, timid, afraid of the world. I didn't want to be out in the world. I wanted to be home by myself. Everybody leave me alone. So often I felt less than my brothers. They were meant to be in this world. They fit in. And my parents were also very strong people. And I didn't feel like I fit. So it was in the Christmas season. I was in elementary school. I turned off all the lights in our house. It gets dark early. My mom was in the kitchen making dinner. I don't know where anyone else was. And I was playing Christmas records, and I was dancing around the living room to all these Christmas songs. And Away in the Manger came on, and I just pictured baby Jesus on the living room floor, and I'm dancing around it, and suddenly I'm just thinking about, or just feeling how much less than my brothers that I feel, that I'm just not worthy, I'm just not like them. But in that moment, I remembered what I'd been learning in church, that Jesus, what love was, what Jesus represented, was that he would love even me. That even though I wasn't like them, even though I didn't have that confidence and that strength, that even I could be loved. And I took that in, I believed it. The child's heart doesn't have a lot of stuff, it's just pure. And I could take that in. And in response, I was feeling love for this was all imaginary, I'm pretending there's a baby Jesus there, and I'm pouring all this love of gratitude for this imaginary baby Jesus, and receiving that love. And as I'm in this process, suddenly there's an extraordinary light that comes to living, that I can actually see. And it grows and it grows and it moves towards me, and I become one with this extraordinary love, this love that is beyond anything I could ever describe or imagine, and includes everything and beyond. As we know, the youngest child often looks up to the older siblings. I adored my 3 brothers. I worshiped them. I loved my family. What I remember from that moment of the vastness of love was the love that I felt for my family was so small compared to this love. Like here I thought I loved my family so much, and it was nothing compared to this divine oceanic love. It was everything. And then it was gone. I knew not to tell my parents, or family. I didn't tell anybody because it was so beyond what I knew they could understand. I couldn't even describe it. And it wasn't something I obsessed about, like, I wish I could tell them. It was just something that happened that changed me forever, but at the same time I knew I couldn't talk about. It became challenging for me, though, because I grew up in a family that is intellectually progressive, highly educated, upper middle class, and we watch the world news every night. The world news 7 days a week. My family loved to get in conversations about how to make this world work for everyone, how to fix things, how to make things better. But as a child, I couldn't keep up always with their intellectual dialogue. But as I watched the news every night, it would hit me emotionally and in my heart. And all I saw every day was extraordinary amount of pain. And I would just see, and it was every day. And I remember, so I went through an existential crisis at a very young age because I had experienced this divine love. I lived in a family that said, you want to make your way, learn to think very well, get good jobs, raise kids well, be rational, make a difference in the world, be good and be principled. And my family is all of that. They're good, they're principled, they make the world a better place. But I couldn't, how did this deal with the divine love? And how do you have this divine love with all the suffering? And as I sat there at the dinner table, I knew about Mother Teresa and Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King and Jesus, and I thought all these great people lived and loved and gave everything, and look at still every single day so much suffering. What could I ever possibly do? And so there became this sense of, what am I here to do? I didn't easily come to an answer, but I definitely went along the line of service, did lots of work, volunteered in a nursing home, volunteered in a halfway home for juvenile offenders in college. That became a job. Later on, worked in a psychiatric hospitals for 4 years. And continued growing and exploring religiously. That really didn't do a lot for me spiritually. So I started in college exploring Eastern religions, which is about direct experience. And that's what I started looking for. Reading books wasn't doing it for me. I wanted direct contact. What I had as a child changed me. I wanted more of that. And I wanted to become more love. It's always nice to have examples. So fast forward, I'm in now Los Angeles, so I started attending the Agape Center for Spiritual, it's called the Agape International Center of Truth. It's in Culver City, California. Reverend Michael Beckwith is the minister, and this is an extraordinary place. It really is the values of what I know Unitarians have here, what we have at Centers for Spiritual Living, which is there's only one power, one presence. It has many names, many paths. And when we come together on a Sunday morning, it's to celebrate our oneness and our uniqueness, that each and every one of us is unique and diverse. So when I would go to service on a Sunday, and I remember this Buddhist monk would come, and he had closed his temple. He had done the service in this morning. He did his Buddhist service in the morning, would close his temple and come to the agape service. There was a whole bunch of people who would go to Siddha Yoga right after service. There was a powerful Jewish group within the community. There were people who didn't want to have anything to do with any religion, but just loved the oneness and the wholeness. That in this one, and diversity, just lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, we had racial people of color. Reverend Michael's African American. We had incredible diversity of races and cultures, all in one space. It was extraordinary, celebrating our oneness. That began to open my heart. I'm like, this is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. This is why we're here, is to create more of this. And there was a particular example of what love looked like for me, and his name is Reverend Nirvana Gale, and he actually really co-created Agape with Reverend Michael. Agape, you may know, means unconditional love. I have read many Reverend Nirvana stories, so because of time, I'll only tell two. But he's an extraordinary individual and has had a huge impact on my life. Because the love that he shined wasn't human love. We all love. But there was this love that was pouring through him. When we allow that love, remember I asked you to invited you to think of one person, and when we allow that love for an individual, that's a small love. And then we grow it to our family, to our community. So we can move from egocentric love to ethnocentric love to world-centric love. And I know the Unitarian values are for world-centric love, all inclusivity, to include all people, and the transcendent love. And Reverend Nirvana absolutely nurtured this in his soul. The power of love was so beyond human love. We can't love the way God loves. And so what we do is we make ourselves open and available and nurture, and we move through him. And it was a powerful force. There was a time where I was on a ministerial retreat, and I did something that I felt ashamed of, and I was embarrassed, and I felt really like this big. I can't believe I did that, and here I'm in ministerial school, I can't believe I behaved this way. And here comes Reverend Nirvana, and I just knew he was going to just say, look, you're in ministerial school, we need to step it up a little. And I was just so ashamed. I didn't want him to see me. You know, when you're embarrassed and you just want to be seen. And he looks at me, and he starts talking, and he starts telling me what he sees when he sees me. And he's seeing the divine within me, the wholeness and the perfection of pure spirit in me. But I can't remember the words. Because as he sat there and talked to me, this living, tangible, more powerful than the chairs in which we were sitting, energy of love came washing over me. Wave after wave after wave of love just came pouring on me, and it was so powerful and transformative. And I'm like, this is what I've been looking for. This divine love that moves through us. There's this love that is always there. We need to access it. It only has its power as we cultivate it and nurture it and allow it to move through us. This love that you have for one individual, when it expands to include the whole world and we nurture it day in and day out, and we see everything that we do, every relationship that we have, when we're at work, when we're doing our finances, whatever we're doing, we're allowing this love. When we're giving service, we know that it's not us, but this divine love moving through and as us. We are cultivating and nurturing a love that is infinitely powerful, that is infinitely more powerful than we could ever give of our own self. Reverend Nirvana also told the story, and because I've experienced his love, and this love, not his love, this divine love moving through him, I have no question. And there's many stories, like I said, but this is the one I chose to speak about today. He also worked full-time in LA's Children and Family Services. At one point, he's working in their correctional center for youth. He gets left in a room, the community room at one point. The other staff member had to leave, so he was there by himself. A new person had been taken in. It was a white supremacist, and he was by himself sitting in the corner, and there was this gang over on the other side, and he saw them all beginning to collect and start talking. So it's just him now, and by the way, Reverend Nirvana is African American. It's just him now. This gang that's beginning to collect, they're all looking over at this white supremacist. They make an agreement. They start walking towards this white guy. Nirvana gets up and he says, no. He stood in front of all of them. Many, one. And he said, no, you're not doing this today. You do not want to do this. And again, what I know with Reverend Nirvana, it's not just the words, it's that love pouring through. He was in a work where you didn't just love the victims, you loved the abusers, you loved all of people. The love had no limits, the love has no borders. This is what divine love, that's why humanly we can't do it, because we have our limits. God, or this infinite love intelligence, has no limits. It loves, and it loves powerfully, it always and unconditionally, and that's the love that was pouring through him, stopped them all in their tracks. They could not move past this love, and they went back. And he went and spoke to this white supremacist, and this white supremacist knew that his life was literally saved in that moment, that he would have been killed had not Nirvana stood up in love. And Nirvana has said, I knew one in God, one in this divine love is a majority. When we stand in that divine love, we are in a majority. And he started talking with this young white male and completely changed his life around. He didn't do it through anger, through preaching, this is what you should be doing. It was through love. Love is the way we're going to transform our own life, and it's the way we transform this entire planet. One in love is a majority. The collective, operating in love, we can make huge shifts on this planet. I think of the Women's March in 2016 and the whole Me Too movement that happened since then. We have Black Lives Matter. We have still so much work to do systemically. It has to happen in love. Bill Lozoff wrote a book called We're All Doing Time, and he was impacted by a little movement that he was part of in the 60s where they overthrew the Levi Strauss company. They didn't like, it was very authoritarian and cruel, and so he said, we marched and we strike and we did all this stuff, and then we took over, and he saw the same people, when the people got in power, they were doing the same things that the other people were doing in power. And that's when he realized we need to change inwardly too. And that's why this is all a love story. If we're changing systems out of anger or out of hate, then we just create more anger and we create more hate. What I love about, I just read an article recently about how systems are beginning to change for women. We need systems, a criminal justice system to change for people of color, immigration system. There's so much we need to do, and it happens through love, and it happens through your love story. My invitation to you is to look at your own love story. This being that you called forth at the beginning of this service, that love, the intensity of that love for that being that you would do anything for, that you love so passionately, unconditionally, can you cultivate that for all life? Not just humanly, but allow this love to overtake us, because there are people that will bug us. We see separation, we see political party separations, we see worldview separations, we have separation everywhere. The one thing that's ever going to bring action, and action that lasts to change, actually make true and real changes to grow, is love. And so we start asking ourselves, where is my love story at work? How am I cultivating my heart at work? When I'm doing service, how am I cultivating love? How am I cultivating love, my own love story for my own self? I know so many of you already give so much service, but you can get burned out. If that same passionate, powerful love is not also being given and surrounding and unfolding your own being on a daily basis, these are spiritual practices that are to nurture us and keep that energy going. You are the way. You are the light. You are the way love is transforming the world. One in love is a majority. A group, a collective in love will change the world.